All right, so on the 57th day since the Deepwater Horizon rig exploded off the Gulf Coast, the president tried to make up for his inaction on the crisis by delivering a primetime address from the Oval Office. Oddly, he spent a lot of time talking just about how on top of this crisis he and his administration have been.
Just after the rig sank, I assembled a team of our nation's best scientists and engineers to tackle this challenge. From the very beginning of this crisis, the federal government has been in charge of the largest environmental cleanup effort in our nation's history.
All right, I guess that's why everything in the Gulf has gone so smoothly over the past 2 months. And, of course, the president didn't miss the opportunity to politicize the issue. To the anointed one, this oil spill provides an excuse to push Democratic initiatives from cap and tax, well, to take a look.
The tragedy unfolding on our coast is the most painful and powerful reminder yet that the time to embrace a clean energy future is now. Now is the moment for this generation to embark on a national mission to unleash America's innovation and seize control of our own destiny. I say we can't afford not to change how we produce and use energy, because long-term costs to our economy, our national security, and our environment are far greater.
All right, for reaction to the president's address, we go now live to Frank Luntz, who's in Los Angeles with a group of great Americans who are ready to respond to what they heard tonight. Frank.
Sean, thank you very much for going to the American people, not just the pundits. You're on. What did you think of the speech? Positive or negative?
Negative.
Why negative?
He went into areas of cap and trade when we're still trying to fix the problem.
Did he say what you wanted him to say?
No, he missed the mark. He talked too much about his political agenda.
You agree?
I totally disagree. I think he did an excellent job considering that he only has limited resources. He's trying to do the best that he can with what he has.
How did he perform?
Speech should have been done 50 days ago. It just failed in my mind.
Totally.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if this was done on the first day of the spill, I think he'd be a hero by now.
It couldn't have been done on the first day of the spill. There was not enough information.
He didn't know about it for the first 6 days.
Chose not to listen to the scientists. He listened to BP right from the beginning.
I don't know that he listened to BP right from the very beginning. And the point is that now he's saying that he's got the scientists, he's got the best of the scientific world and the academic world, and they're all coming together to make a decision.
Yeah, there was no scientific
evidence. It happened in 18 minutes.
There are 2 points. There are 2 moments when you all were using those dials, if I may have one of these. They were reacting on a second-by-second basis. The higher that they turned their dials, the more favorable the reaction. Early in the speech, Barack Obama talked about what should happen with BP. Let's take a look. Remember, the higher the lines go, the more favorable the reaction. Let's see what our American panel said about Obama's speech.
Tomorrow, I will meet with the chairman of BP and inform him that he is to set aside whatever resources are required to compensate the workers and business owners who have been harmed as a result of his company's recklessness. And this fund will not be controlled by BP. In order to ensure that all legitimate claims are paid out in a fair and timely manner, the account must and will be administered by an independent third party.
Now, that's a strong statement. Who had a favorable reaction to that? Raise your hands. Who had a negative reaction? What the hell do you want?
Why third party? Why not the government administering it? I mean, this is a national security issue almost.
Get it out of just come through the bill? He does not have the authority to do that. As a president of the United States, he cannot do it. He can't do it. It's in the Constitution.
It's in the Constitution, and I believe the law says there is a cap on the liability BP should now, and BP has promised to go beyond that.
But shouldn't BP held accountable? Don't you like that he's holding BP accountable? What do you want?
I don't think he's holding them accountable enough. I think somebody needs to go to jail as an object lesson.
How many of you, by show of hands,
crime against nature?
How many of you, by a show of hands, would send the CEO of BP to jail? Raise your hands. Only 3 of you. We've got another clip. And this one, you're going to watch the Obama lines and the McCain lines divide tremendously over the issue of a national commission. Let's take a look.
The families I met with last week who lost their loved ones in the explosion, these families deserve to know why. And so I've established a national commission to understand the causes of this disaster and offer recommendations on what additional safety and environmental standards we need to put in place. Already I've issued a 6-month moratorium on deepwater drilling. I know this creates difficulty for the people who work on these rigs, but for the sake of their safety and for the sake of the entire region, we need to know the facts before we allow deepwater drilling to continue.
Okay, the public's watching you. How many of you agree with... Do you always shout out when someone's speaking? How many of you agree with what he just said? Raise your hands. How many of you disagree with what he said? What's the problem with it?
He comes off like he's a community organizer, and the bottom line is, behind it all, it seems as though there's some legislation that he feels as though he needs to get through, needs to get passed. If he was a real leader, the oil would have never have reached the shores. That's what an administrator would have done.
Wait, hold on. You're telling me that you think that Barack Obama could have actually stopped the oil from flowing out of that?
Absolutely.
Oh, come on.
As an administrator, I'll explain it. As an administrator.
Stop. Stop. We are on national television. I remind you. Sean, I want to emphasize this because it's going to upset them if they actually pay attention. But the McCain people in the entire session barely gave Barack Obama over a 50. I think that for most of you, I think we've now reached the point where we've become so divided that we're not even listening to what our leaders are saying if we disagree with them or agree with them and how we voted.
Frank, first of all, I love when you scold me more than the panel, which is interesting. But here's a serious point. So one of the panelists said something that I think was very profound. This speech should have been given 50 days ago. Now, I want to throw out a few facts and get their reaction to it. The thing that has made me most angry in all of this is there were things we can do. We learned that the Dutch government, 3 days after the explosion, they offered skimmers that would have extracted 20,000 tons of sludge a day. We rejected it in writing. The British similarly offered help. We have a warehouse in Maine with all of these booms. We haven't tapped those booms. In other words, they sent down the lawyers, they blame BP, they talk about money. Why didn't they get all hands on deck from day one and give this speech on day one?
Guys, how many of you agree with Sean? Raise your hands if you agree. Okay, Sean, you won them over. Why? Somebody, tell me why.
Because it's not getting done.
Go ahead.
He does. They didn't do the job right. He didn't call everybody down. I was in Europe. They want to help us, and we're turning them away. Just when when Europe wants us to help them, we show up and they turn us away.
You're up.
He's a community organizer. That's what he does best. And as a community organizer, the unions are the ones who put him in office, and he's beholden to him. That's why when you talk about the Jones Law, that's why he doesn't allow the other nations to come aboard.
I know you don't agree.
No, I don't agree with that. I mean, first of all, if you consider that BP, there were some. There were things that could have happened before, true. However, he acted in good faith. And when the spill broke out, I don't...
Okay, hold on. Sean, stop.
The matter is, we turn off to the president.
Sean, in all the time that I've done it, and this includes some pretty tough times, this is the most onerous group that I have ever had. I know you have another question.
No, it means I like it, but here's the point here. I don't think anybody's going to disagree. This is a disaster. Here's the sad part. Our fishing industry is being destroyed. Our shores are being destroyed. Our tourism industry is being destroyed. And I want to go back to this point. Skimmers were offered. Booms were available. The government did nothing. And I'm asking, after Katrina, after this, is this focus group losing faith in the government's ability to run things, and especially Obama?
I'm going to say that Obama has inherited this problem just like he's inherited many other problems. And, okay, of course not McCain people. However, rather than continuing to focus on what could have been done, let's focus on the fact that he today speaks.
Go ahead.
The logistics of getting these skimmers. And Sean, are you an expert at this kind of stuff? Do you understand the logistics of all this? Or did you just, were you fed this on a teleprompter?
Go ahead.
I'm sick and tired of everything being, the oil spill was not Bush's fault. How could it be Bush's fault when even Democrats as well get kickbacks from oil companies?
Okay, you got to stop. Sean, I urge you at some point, come on out to Southern California. Just make sure you bring a flak jacket. Back to you.
Hey, can I say one thing? Thank you to everybody for participating. It's very informative, a lively group, and we really appreciate it. Give yourselves a big hand out there. Thank you very much. And coming up, it was a showdown on Capitol Hill today as top oil